Good morning, everyone. Thank you very much for joining us today for the Efficient Invest market call. Today we are honored to have an extremely distinguished guest with us, Mr. Gerrie Fourie. He's the former CEO of Capitec Bank. He had a very long and extremely successful career as the head of the bank, growing its customer base from around 5 million to roughly 24 million customers now, so the biggest bank by number of customers currently, so extremely successful. Thank you very much, Gerrie, for joining us today, having a discussion about your career and your views on South Africa and the banking industry in general. We look forward to these discussions. With me today, as always, Dawie Roodt, our Chief Economist at the Efficient Group. Thank you very much, Dawie, for flying to Cape Town and joining us today. Gerrie, to start things off, how did your journey look from a young man to becoming the head of one of the most successful banks in South Africa?
Sure, that's a long story, but maybe I will start. My dad said to me, I can study at any university as long as it's Stellenbosch, then he will pay, otherwise he don't pay. So that was a simple decision, and I met my wife in Standard 9 at Hermanus, and she was Paul Jim or Paul. Then I did my BCom and honours and all those things, but my passion was always to be an entrepreneur, never to work for a salary. So I said I will go and join Stellenbosch Farmers Winery, old Stellenbosch Farmers Winery, and I would learn and make mistakes, but my whole passion was very quickly I would start my own business and do my own thing. I started as a stock clerk, accounting stock, and then within 6 or 7 months I was promoted to the financial planning division. Carl Fisher was there, and I popped into him and I said, I'm very bored counting stock. And then I was in the financial planning division, doing the budgets for the company. And Frans Krubel at 27 came into my office. He was our MD. He said to me, I want you in Natal on Monday. Now, our friends, everyone was in Stellenbosch, parents, everything. And I said, how? And he said, you're going to run KwaZulu-Natal. Now, KwaZulu-Natal was our third biggest province at that stage. No, second biggest, sorry. And yeah, at 27, I started being general manager in KwaZulu-Natal, looking after basically everything except production, distribution, marketing, sales, etc. But at 27, you knew nothing. I was lucky busy with my MBA, so all my theory, I had my MBA books, and because my team was about average age of about 55. But I was just challenging, and I think it's my nature. Everything that you do, I challenged and said, but there must be a different way to do it. Still today, the one thing I didn't get right was the prices restaurants pay for, or markup that they do on wine, the 300%. I hate it like hell. Because I said to them, why? And they said, I have to carry stock. So I said to them, but I will deliver for you within 8 hours. So you don't need to carry stock. And we did that. We delivered within 6-7 hours, but they never dropped their prices. So we also started owner-driver at those days. I can tell you many stories about that. I've learned quite a lot on owner-driver. SAB started at 10, and I copied it and had my own plan. And at 32, I was asked to go and run the old Transvaal, and that was production, everything. But it was very badly run, very unionized. Our stock losses was like 2-3 million a month.
What year is this, more or less?
You're talking now 95, 94. So it was very badly run. And I had to go and do a cleanup. Because you arrived there, I had full support from France. And I said to him, listen, the senior management team here is old, it's not the right people. If we want to change this, we need to change it. And that was quite an experience, because you're young, 32, and you have to go in and fire senior people and people that's been 20 years in the company, 20, 30 years. But I had to make that call. Very unionized. We were 1,500, 1,400 people. When we were finished with the whole reorganization, we were probably about 700 people, and we did about 50% more because we automated all the production lines. We did night picking, etc., etc. So It was quite fun and games. We worked basically day in, night, but it was just a passion. And what was nice is it actually gave me that entrepreneurial what I wanted to do, because I had basically carte blanche from Selma's farmers. They believed in me and they left me. So I could spend money the way I believe money must be spent, and really took on the challenge. So I did that for about 4 years. And then Michiel phoned me, and he said to me, he's starting a bank. Do you want to join? Yeah, we had 1 or 2 interviews, and I said to him, actually what was quite interesting, I actually went to go and see Riaan Stassen, and I said to Riaan, but Michiel asked me to be the CEO. Should I do it? Should I not do it? I knew Riaan from the liquor days, and he said, you can't say much, but don't do it. That was his words. And I can tell you now many long stories about it. He said, don't do it, but he can't give me a reason. The reason why he said to me, don't do it, was that African Bank and Boland Bank they were busy with a transaction merging the two, and if that came off, then our chances for success would have been minimal. So he said to me, don't do it. And it's interesting, my wife was quite sick. She had a kidney transplant in 2003. And you're fighting with this whole thing about being conservative. You must look after your wife, your kids, but you've got your passion. And I'll always say to her, she supported me 100%. She said, go and live your passion. We'll make a plan, live your passion. And then we started Capitec. Interesting enough, I started 1st of April, and the first week, that typical, I had to go back that Friday afternoon to come fetch my wife and everyone, and Michiel phoned me as I was going up the stairs, and he said to me, how was your first week? And I said, we need good people very quickly, and many of them. And he said, but I've got the whole Boland team that's going to come across on Monday, Tuesday. I didn't understand what was happening, but I walked in on Tuesday evening, it was the PSG offices, and I was 5 minutes late because I couldn't get parking. And as I walked in, the deal was already signed that the Boland Bank team of that exco, remember they worked with Michiel, that I think it was 80% of them came across. And because what they did is because they realized, BUE realized, but if they merge with African Bank, then their payments arm is going to go across, and BUE is going to lose the payment side. And then they manufactured a disciplinary hearing against Riaan and Andre Dup and Christiaan van Wyk, and that's the last people you do something like that. And then they just said, because they were found innocent, etc., but they said they can't work.
What was your official position at Capitec then?
I was CEO.
But just a question about that, because I worked at the Reserve Bank, and I know if you want to get a banking license, the Reserve Bank is extremely strict, and we can talk about that a little bit. So the Reserve Bank approved you as CEO?
I remember we were a micro-lender.
You were not a full bank.
We were not a full bank yet. Yeah, we weren't a full bank yet. We thought we're going to be, it's quite easy, you can buy a banking license for 12.5 million. That was the price those days. And then they said to us, no, you must go and buy a bank. And we're moving now a little bit, but what happened was that we were with PSG. PSG was our main shareholder. They had about 80-90% of the shares. I think about 80% Michiel had the rest. And they had Business Bank. Remember the Business Bank that went bust? They had it under PSG Bank. And the only way, but PSG Bank was listed. And the only way we could do that is that we will go under PSG Bank, but then separate the two companies and we will be listed. So we listed not for the reason of capital, which normal companies do. We listed to get a bank license.
To get a banking license.
And the share price, as everyone probably know, was 5 rand and in at about 60 cents that day. But that's how we got a banking license.
Okay.
I was also probably the shortest CEO stint because I joined 1st of April. Rian and them was then middle April appointed. They went to Botswana for about 2-3 months because they said they just want to have a sabbatical. And they joined us in about June, July. And it was in that first week that Michiel said, but listen, you're not CEO anymore, but Rian is going to take over CEO. And I said, I don't care. Rihanna's got much more experience than me, and it all goes for me about we must build the bank. And that was the way we operated. We didn't worry about who does what. Everyone, you had a function and you did it. I spoke to young people the other day, and I said, that was actually a tremendous. We were 8-9 of us on that exco that built the bank, and we trusted each other with everything. I know Andre was the best person on finance. I know Christiaan was the best person on risk. And we trusted him. We fought like hell. Don't forget that. Monday afternoons was quite hectic, especially those first couple of years where you're building and things is not working and changing. So you fought like hell. But the one thing Rian was very good at is to say, if we walk out of that office or exco meeting, then we one team. So that's the way. That's how I ended up at Capitec. I can tell you the story in probably in a couple of years. So we started in 2000. The first micro lenders were bought in 99. When I joined, we were about 200 micro lenders. And I'll tell the story now. And we went till about 300, 311, and then we realized, but you buy something. You buy short-term profits, but you throw away the people. There's no systems, there's no brand. So you can rather use the Capitec brand and start building the brand and build the organization. Just coming back to the micro lender, because the question is always, why did we start with the micro lending? And it was simple, very simple. There's 2 ways to start a bank. Old Mutual, those days started a bank. They spent $1 billion and wasn't successful. Or Michiel said, if you sit something with a micro lender, you need a dominant player. And there was no dominant player. Low end was probably the biggest dominant player. But you had to, it's the easy way to dominate that space and capture market share and get profitability and then build your bank from there. And he was 100% right. It was an interesting journey of going through that.
Is there a story around the name?
Yeah, it's a interesting story because while Rian and them was in Botswana, Carl Fisher, Carl was my mentor in SFW, so he joined then, and we will immediately start working on the brand. And if you look at we got an advertising company that helped us to get the emblem, that swish. And it's interesting when they put that forward, we immediately said yes, this is what it's going to be. There was no debate about it, and even when Rian came back immediately, this is correct. The name is a different story because it comes from capital and technology.
Oh, I see.
Capitec, and it was always like the third name or the fourth name. But as we were going through and we had numerous debates, Capitec came stronger and stronger and stronger, and that's where Capitec actually came from, capital and technology. So that's where the name came from.
So in your journey from, as you spoke, I think making important life decisions, I think important takeaway is listen to your wife and not the experts. But other than that,
sorry, I need to tell the story because that's also very. This Putlaray Road. I was actually because I saw Michiel and I said to Michiel, or I phoned him and I said to him, Michiel, I'll join, but I need to come and see you. And he said, yes, it's fine. So I turned around, I walked into his office and I said to him, Michiel, I'll join. But if the medical aid doesn't pay my wife's operation, will the company stand in? And he looked at me and said, I will stand in. And so that was 2000, and 2003 she had the op, and I'll always remember that. And the word integrity is so important. He walked into my office after the op and he says to me, what do I own? And I said to him, nothing. Medical aid is paying for it. But that's just, if your word is your word, you don't wait. He went, come and said, what do I have? Which is me, I always remember that.
Sure. It's an excellent addition to my question, because so in your earlier days at SFW, you learned a lot about efficiency, cutting costs and operating more efficiently, and then the integrity also playing a very important part, as well as kind of having a vision for your business. But what do you think are the, let's say, top 2 key characteristics that a South African business must have to attain success in such a difficult operating environment?
I think there's 2. The first one, a real obsession with your client and really understanding your client. We were in the liquor industry and we tried to get wine and spirits into the black market. And we spent a tremendous amount of time in shebeens and trying to understand it, because it was dominated by beer, and understand how the market works. And so I had numerous conversations and what do we have to do to establish the brand. And even today, it's 80-90% about the client. I spoke to somebody the other day, we hardly look at the competitor. I would, in my period, I would probably every 6 months, every 9 months say, let's look at what the competitor is doing. But it was really to understand the client and satisfy the client, because that's where we understood very clearly banking is too complex. It must be simplified. It must be transparent. And I still don't understand today why there's a different price for a person with a high income and a different price for a person with a low income. Because if a transaction costs you 10 cents, why must you ask a different margin on
I can remember you saying that in the press.
Yeah, and it's I was on Stadio's board and we were talking pricing, and I said, but pricing is so simplistic. If you add value, you can ask more. But if it's a pure transaction, it must be the same for everyone.
Was there a specific moment, a specific product, a specific something where you thought, okay, now we've made a major breakthrough here? We're becoming a serious bank.
Yeah, I think, Dawie, what you must understand, we came out of liquor, and I need to come back to number 2, so just remind me.
Oh, sorry.
Let me do number 2 and then I'll talk.
Okay.
I think the other thing is, and it is very interesting, is when Andre and them joined, Andre was, and I must give that credit to him, he was adamant that we must sit down and write a business plan. Now, you're starting a business, the last thing you want to do is write a business plan. You want to go make money and
It sounds like our CEO. He's like that. Put it on paper.
And it's exactly that. So we for 6 months, 7 months debated what is our business plan and put it on paper. And we spent, if you look at our fundamentals, affordability, accessibility, simplicity and service, that was probably a 2 months debate. Until today, we critically follow those fundamentals. And if you look at business plans, till today, it's a critical part of what we do at Capitec. And it comes to my point that I want to make is that for us, we start around August, September. We start with your 5 to 10 year. Where's the company going to be 5 to 10 years? Your October goes about the next 1 to 3 years, and then you go into your 1 year, and everything goes into proper business plans. Our business plans, the last time I went through business plans was over 1,000 pages, but I went through that detail and understand exactly what is happening and make certain that they talk to each other, because otherwise this goes here and this goes where. There. But the business plan is broken down in 3 intervals of 4 months. So your business plan is what happens in the first 4 months, what happens in the next 4 months, and what might happen in the next 4 months, and everything is measured. So we measure things on a weekly basis, monthly basis, and 4 monthly basis. Your performance appraisals is also done on that basis, because the one thing, what it leads to is execution of strategy. And that's my second point, is that everyone talks strategy. Go and look at the strategy between the banks and ourselves. It's client-centric, it's digital, etc. But it's the execution of the strategy. And that execution of the strategies goes, if you take a strategy and you make it very simplistic and everyone in the bank understands it, because then they execute.
Yeah.
If they don't understand it, they don't execute, and that's critical.
The chiefs and Indians.
So for me, it's client obsessed, then working out your strategy, but then executing your strategy and measure. Understand the detail. If you don't understand detail, you're dead. You need to really understand the detail and measure everything. I'll just give an example. If you are, in those beginning days, if you had a loan, and let's say the loan takes 20 minutes, we know on screen A, it'll take 2 minutes. Screen B, it takes 10 minutes. Other one 5 minutes. And then we'll monitor and we can see if a consultant is going too quickly or too fast. And if you're sitting, even today, we know if a client sits in front of a consultant, it's 10 Rand a minute. It's now 9.50. But if we can take off 2 or 3 or 4 seconds, you can understand what it makes on the whole efficiency side.
It sounds a little bit like a McDonald's shop.
It is.
In a way.
It is.
Okay, so that one big breakthrough. Once
no, it's interesting. In liquor, we always said it will take you 12 years to build a brand. But then you must, if you look at brandy, if you look at a whiskey, it's 10 years if you build a brand, on average, 10 to 12 years. And we said building the brand is our biggest goal, to make certain we build a brand. And if you build a brand, it goes about consistency builds trust. And you break trust like this. And now to say, how do you build that brand? We were obsessed to say, if I look at our positioning, when we position our branches, the way we communicate in the media, all of that is crystal clear, and we define that.
Yeah.
If we look at the product, we said we're going to have one product for everyone, global one, because still our aspiration is to go global, so everyone gets a global one, and the pricing and the product's exactly the same. Doesn't matter who you are, it's exactly the same. And then on the service side, the appointment of our staff, the systems, the processes, we were obsessed with it to make certain that we get that right. And that was building that brand. Just to give you an example, how obsessed we were, we started with psychometrical testing in 2002, 2003. So if you wanted to become a consultant, you go through a psychometrical test where we measure, you had to have maths, and what we're measuring, your ability to connect with a client. Because remember, look at where you are. If you don't connect to somebody, it doesn't work. If you want to buy a pair of shoes or Wi-Fi or whatever, if that salesperson doesn't connect with you, you're dead. So the ability to connect. So we tested it, and so on average, we appoint about 4 or 5 out of 100 people we'll appoint. We said we'll appoint from the community to serve the community, because you wanted that word of mouth going. And in 2003, we said every single person will come to Cape Town, to Stellenbosch. We've got a business school here, and every single person for 2 weeks will come and sit here. I remember we didn't have the money, but we were obsessed with making certain everyone gets the same training, everyone gets the same culture, everyone meets the CEO, etc., etc. And that made a massive difference. And it was just coming back at 2011, 12, people were saying not anymore Capitec Bank. That was starting to come through.
What I hear is attention to detail, attention to detail. Yeah. I want to just, okay, that's the management. That's how your values and how you set up the whole business plan and how you manage the bank. I would like to know your relationship. You must have you must have been CEO while there were a number of central bankers. Tito Mboweni, Jill Marcus would have been there. Lesetja Kanyagu, who am I missing out here? Those are
they were basically Gil Marcus and Lesetja was the
most. Were you in close contact with them?
Not actually. We'll meet. We'll meet about, I would say, once, maybe twice a year. But the regulators that was appointed to Capitec, you would be with them on a constant basis.
My question is more around the way that banks in South Africa are regulated by the South African Reserve Bank. The banks in South Africa, the financial system is very healthy, very well capitalized, but it's also relatively expensive. So we pay for this solid banking, this financial system that we have. Give us a bit of an idea on how that is. What do you think of that? How that is managed?
I can't remember the figures, but because I asked for about 3-4 years ago for that number, the number of man hours and time that was spent on reports, interactions with the Reserve Bank, and it was a massive amount. It was like 30% of our people's time. We were actually now starting to saying, but okay, right, we divide the company into running the company and reporting to the Reserve Bank.
Is it that bad?
It's but Dawie, it's the interesting one is because if you're a big bank like ourselves, they're very into it. I think the biggest challenge is now what's happening in the financial services world is everyone that comes into the financial services world, and how do you control them? Because you need to make certain that the playing field is correct. And what is happening now these days, everyone wants to go in payments and everyone has got a wallet. But what is a wallet? A wallet is a deposit. The moment you take a deposit, you should be regulated. And that's actually where their challenge lies, because it's always easy to do the big five. But how do you do all the smaller guys, and how do you make certain the playing field is that's going to be very interesting to see how that plans out in the next couple of years.
I want to talk about that a little bit. But the point you're making here is this is a huge, massive administrative cost to comply with everything that the Reserve Bank requires.
I had many debates with them, and because the first thing you will do, you bring in regulations, and because then you control everything. And then I said, okay, what is the impact on the client and what is the cost? Because if you look at AML, we got 300 people doing AML. Now you must ask, it is important, but when is it too much? And the debates I had with Denzel and Fundi and before I left was, why do you not centralize that? And you have all the banks do AML centrally, and then the other banks or the banks just do the last 20%, because we duplicate 80%. If you look at attorneys, etc., why is there not a central body that can do these things? But those are the debates that's going on.
How does it compare to other countries?
I think what has happened with us is, unfortunately, where we were grey listed, we're now the opposite. It's that whole balance thing. And now you need to go into and say, but we're off now, but how do we get it? Because the inefficiencies or the cost is just getting, I think all of us know when we talk AML, how frustrated it is and how regularly you need to do it. And that's why I'm saying it's really so much easier if we can do it centrally and they can pull it centrally, etc. But we're still a far way.
When you talk about banking, I mean, there's one word that also, banks and interest rates are the same thing. And obviously the Reserve Bank wants to make sure that monetary policy is effective, and they do that through the normal monetary policy system that we know of. Are you generally in agreement with the way that the Reserve Bank is enforcing monetary policy, or the monetary policy that they are applying?
I think generally I'm happy what they're doing. I got a hiding about a year ago before I retired, when I said I think it's very important to look at your real interest rate, the difference between inflation and
that's right.
And because it's quite easy to say my interest rates are here and inflation is here, and I must keep that cap at real. What is the real interest rate? And then you must ask yourself, what is the growth opportunities that you're missing because your capital is so expensive?
Yeah.
And I haven't got the answer. You should have the answer because you're economist.
But you reckon it's too high? You reckon
I think it's too high because you want to encourage people to actually get credit. And it's an interesting debate as well. I'm in two minds because we've just saw an increase of 25 pips, but it's got nothing actually to do with the South African economy. It's outside factors that pushes up petrol, etc. If the consumer was spending, penalize him. But it's a structural thing, and is it long term, is it short term? But it's a very technical,
There's a bit of a relatively easy answer to that. Is one there's more than what I'm just this only. But the part of the reason is simply that you need to manage inflation expectations. And that is relatively high. For that, we need to pay relatively high interest rates for some time.
Yeah. But I'm worried about the gap. If you look at what is inflation now, it's 4, it was 3, and you're at, let's say, 10, so 7. Now, if you're looking, we are an emerging country or developing country. is 7 the right thing? If you go to America or Europe, those places, that gap is 1%, 2%.
But the inflation expectation is much lower.
no,
But let's not debate that.
That's an idea would be to change the mandate of the Reserve Bank, more like the Americans, to have full employment and lower inflation, because the South African
Let's ask Gerrie that. What he thinks of that.
Yeah, the South African Reserve Bank is...
yeah, you're going now into my famous 10% last two months of when I was CEO. I think I must give you perspective on it because I was in Mexico. We operate in Mexico, and I went for the first time. And you know, typically when you go, you sit in a plane and you prepare yourself. What the hell is happening in Mexico? And I saw, but the unemployment rate is 3-4%, and I said it can't be. Then I saw, as you read further, but your formal economy is, let's say, 50%, and your informal economy is, let's say, 47%. And then I traveled Mexico. We were there for 10 days, and I was really, the one thing when I go into a country is voetslaan. I walk the streets. I don't like meetings and things. I want to see what's happening, and I want to see what the informal market is. And then I realized, but what is happening here, they've got much more formal structures whereby the informal economy is operating. So they will have a garage we can lock up, which the government has given. And suddenly this person, think about it, if you've got things that you must sell in the informal market, you must pick it up tonight and you must go and lock it away. Yeah. But they've got proper garages where they can lock away, they get support, etc., etc. And I was in a business day interview, and they asked me about the unemployment rate, and I said, but our unemployment rate is definitely not 32%, and nobody will convince me that it's 32%. I said our inflation rate is, our unemployment rate is more between 10 and 15%. And I then said, if you really want to change South Africa, the government and big companies is not going to solve unemployment. Entrepreneurs will solve it. And our policies must be to support entrepreneurs to do business.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, that got lost in that whole statement. But if you go into the informal market, and I spend a lot of time there, if you as South African entrepreneur and you haven't got products that goes into the informal market, you're dead. That's massive. And the way the people operate, their entrepreneurship, I can tell you many stories. It's unbelievable. And that's why we're so passionate to say, how can we bank them? How can we give credit to them? How can we grow them? Because I believe that is the future of South Africa, is the entrepreneurs. And we can go into any one of these townships, just the amount of, even the ladies that's selling vet cook, they make 1,000 rand a day. That's 30,000 rand a day. And interesting, I had Stats SA, ministers, all in my office, and we debated, and then they said, Stats SA said, but these stats is right. I said, okay, right, let's quickly go and look at it. You've got these 7 or 8 questions that they ask. I say, what credibility have you got to ask those questions? I said, I'll take you a bet if you take those 8 questions and ask a Capitec person to ask those same 8 questions, we'll get a different answer. And he agreed. I said, then the second biggest problem we've got is social grants. Because Dawie now himself is at 18 million, 24 million, but it's a massive amount of people that get social grants.
Approximately 28 million people.
28 million people. I wanted to say 28 and I thought it was too high. But let's make it 28, make it 24.
The civil servants, there's another 2 million, so maybe they glorify grant recipients.
Now your problem is, if you ask a person that gets a social grant, are you employed or unemployed? The moment you say unemployed, he loses his social grants.
Yeah, exactly.
And there's no way he's going to answer, I'm unemployed, or I'm employed. Interesting thing is, we've gone through all our stats in Capitec on all our people that's getting social grants, because we can see it, and their income levels on social grant versus their other income. Their other income is about 5 times higher.
But you know, you of course caused a real flurry amongst economists debating this thing. I mean, you had this. I mean, there was quite a thing about amongst the economists, and the answer is you're right. in a sense that unemployment certainly is much, much lower if you measure it the way that you're measuring. But Stats South Africa is also right, because they've got a certain approach of doing things, which is sort of international approach to doing things. But I think you technically...
But they've actually admitted that the
methodology.
That needs to change.
It should change.
And they admitted that they don't understand the informal market, and they need to get a different definition.
For South Africa.
But that's what Mexico has done. Because Mexico tells you exactly. There's 50% that's formally employed, 47% informal, and they understand the informal economy. And now they say, okay, right, what policies, what do we bring in to support that?
We're sort of running out of time. I've got a bag full of questions still. And one certainly has to do with technological changes. I mean, the world of technology has changed. We know you don't need a bank, you don't need an office anymore, you don't need a big building where you can serve your customers anymore. Things are happening on your phone now. So that's a big change that has already happened. But there are some other changes happening in the world of finance and technology as well. And I'm referring to things like, for example, maybe the blockchain technology. You have some thoughts on that?
I know we had a long argument about blockchain, but I want to get back to, before I answer that. If you're sitting, all of us has got systems when you build a business. If you don't upgrade or change your systems every 5-6 years, you build legacy and it's going to bite you. It's like a car. A car you need to replace every 4 or 5 years because it's old and maintenance gets higher, etc., etc. And what businesses do, and we experienced it, and we thought we are the new kid on block, and we've got no legacy. But if you don't deliberately go into your systems and processes and make certain that you upgrade it and to the best technology that's available, you're going to lose out. And what you do is you create a spaghetti whereby you see the point here and you don't know where it's going and what it's going to affect at the end. Because you see and you see and you don't understand what's happening
in between.
And if you're talking technology, make certain that you understand your technology, make certain that you upgrade on a regular basis. And so that you, just to give you an example, we in 2020 we said no, if we're going to use AWS, Salesforce, etc., to handle I'm going to call it core systems, and that took us about 2 years. And now our people is focusing on like the client, and it's client centric. In the past, they were all running the legacy system. And that's just an interesting observation. If I look at technology, I think it's critical that you stay abreast. I'm not a big blockchain fan. Cryptocurrencies, I believe there should be an underlying value. I think it's interesting in 2012, when I think it's 12, 13, when blockchain came, everyone said, this is the new kid, and we know it took much longer. But there's a lot of value in it. If I look at contracts, brokerages, the technology, it's the cost of it and the scalability of it that's a challenge. But I think you need to understand where it's going. The one that I'm much more excited about is AI, because we've seen it. Just before I left, we had to make a call to say, do we put all our people on Copilot and give them access to it? And Wim, our IT head, was adamant, we are going to do it, and the cost was massive. And then I said, okay, right, I'll approve it, but I want a structured training program to make certain people optimize it, because otherwise it just lies on your desk and you don't use it. And the productivity and the efficiency that we got, because suddenly we trained everyone, and everyone was playing, because you didn't know really where it's going. But the fact that you're playing and I'm playing, and I say, Dawie, what have you learned? And now we're playing, and now you see where it's going. It's incredible what that has done.
How many white collar workers are going to lose their jobs because of that?
It's an interesting one. I think it's just going to change where you are going. I'm not that pessimistic that it's going to lose, but I think everyone that's sitting full-time in front of a computer must ask serious questions.
Credit is a good example. I mean, AI can do that.
But the nice thing is, Dawie, is that I see it with our credit applications. the information that is coming through is so much better, so much quicker. So you can handle so much more applications and say much quicker yes or no. In the past, you had 30, 40 people analyzing a credit application. Now it's 3, 4 people, and you're getting much more concise. And you can really now go and spend your time to analyze the business, because yes, there's one thing, numbers. But the biggest, I've always said, if you want to finance entrepreneurs, how do you rate the jockey? Because cash flow is one thing, but the jockey, here is a difficult animal to measure. And you only measure him by sitting and drinking coffee with him and understanding him.
I must ask you this, because again, we're running out of time. The proposal from Treasury recently, we've got foreign exchange regulations, and you can't take money out. You have to jump through all sort of loops and things. It's not easy to get your money out. The proposal from Treasury, my question is, don't you think they're overdoing that? What are your views on forex, on capital flows, international capital flows? Should we abolish all forex controls?
Yeah, it's always that too much. I think we're too tight. I think if you understand where the flows is, and you understand that I'm paying you and it's reported, why do I have to go through a 6 months process? Because that's what they do is they want to approve everything, and then it takes 6 months before you can do the transaction. So it's that balance that you need, and AI and technology like that can make a big difference on that side. Yeah, it's a time difference, because we all know if you're in business, time is time.
My question is related to the previous technology topic, and I think it's on top of mind for a lot of people, is cybersecurity and how safe your money is in a bank, because with the rise of artificial intelligence, the criminals have also gotten smarter, because the artificial intelligence helped them as well. How much of a physical cost is that to a business like Capitec, investing and changing system or updating systems to keep track of latest developments?
I'll answer it in this way, that as CEO, that was the thing that scared me the most.
Is it?
Because you've got no clue, you put all the best technology, all the best people on it. But remember, there's people in that black hole that tries and breaks you. What's happened now with Standard Bank. So it's a fight between what you do and what they do. But I think for any business, that is something you need to be extremely get specialist in. Try and hack your own systems. We got people that comes in, nobody knows about them. They come in, they try and hack, and
it's an arms race.
It's a race,
and it never stops.
Yeah, but it's the one thing that as CEO I was always extremely scared if Wim walks into my office and say, "Here's a problem." It's because it's a difficult one to defend.
You're saying that's the thing that you feared the most. There was a fateful day in 2018 when the Viceroy, a report landed. Luckily now we know that was, most of the claims that they made were completely baseless, and I see the FSCA actually delivered them a 50 million rand penalty in the process. But as a CEO of the helm of such a big listed company, if you get a report like that, short sellers that already have short positions kind of against you, and your stock prices, you're suffering. How do you handle that as a CEO?
It wasn't fun and games. I'll tell a story, because I think it's not a philosophy, it's not a policy, it's just the way we operate. We never looked at the share price, and you look at it tonight, but at Exco we'll never discuss the share price. Because we always said focus on the inputs, the outputs will look after it. And I think that's a very important lesson. Look at the inputs, not the outputs. And share price is output. And Andre Dup said to me on a Monday afternoon, he said, "Hey, our share price dropped with 30%. And he's got no clue what's happened. So you don't know, market does this. And the old summit that evening I watched, and then somebody said, but Viceroy is going for Capitec, and I phoned Andre and said, but I think that's what's coming. And 8 o'clock, Bloomberg phoned us and said, but Viceroy is bringing out a report, and they want us 10 o'clock with Viceroy on a media conference. And I said, but there's no ways I can go into a media conference if I don't see the report. And I said, okay, they must send it through to me. And then we got it about 9 o'clock, and it was a 24, 25 page report with a lot of interesting report, let me call it that.
So to interrupt you, but so Viceroy didn't engage you at all before publishing?
No. And what I didn't like was that Bloomberg immediately said, well, we must go into a media session. And I'm not prepared because I don't know what the allegations are. Then we pulled in the whole financial team, and I remember I still said, okay, Dawie, you look page 1 to 2, you look page 2 to 3, you look page 4, and I want answers by within an hour.
15 minutes.
Yeah, that's that type of thing. But our finance team was busy on a finance team conference. Luckily, they were close at Protea Hotel, but we pulled them all in. And then at about 1 o'clock or 2 o'clock, we said, okay, right, we'll do a first asset managers and then media conference. But it's interesting, is one of the, you write the thing when there's a disaster, but you don't know how you're going to react. But we were, what are we going to do? And I know I had a quiet moment, and I said, but it's actually quite easy. We must go and say, what impact will it have on our clients? What impact will it have on the Reserve Bank? What impact will it have on the media? What impact will it have on... you unpack all your stakeholders and say, what impact will it have? And then what is the different strategies on all of them? And it's something, when you've got a crisis or a problem, we all want to go in and fight it. But go and think, who's your stakeholders and what should your strategies be? And the moment we said that, we understood what we had to do. So we had the media conference at I think 4 or 5. We had asset managers. We made place for 300 people, and there was 800 people on that call. And then we saw Bloomberg also that evening. I called in the Exco team and said, listen, you guys are going to run the business. Myself and Andre is going to go Viceroy. We're going to go drinking a bit. And and it was a good 3-4 months of fighting. But it was, we believed in what we did. We didn't thought anything was wrong. We were honest, we were straightforward, and I think that helped us a lot, because if they say this, we said this. And what helped us, we made contact that Tuesday or that Wednesday with an American company that went through a Viceroy attack, and they said to us, and we spoke quite a lot, when their tactic is going to, step 1 is this, step 2 is this, step 3 is this, step 4 is this. That helped us a lot, because we understood if we say we protect them here, they're going to go for the board. Then they're going to go to the Reserve Bank. Then they're going to go for the auditors. So we could prepare in that way. But honesty, straight, believe in yourself, that's what we did.
Again, time is always an issue here, but a slightly different topic, and that is, you build a huge business in a very, very difficult macroeconomic environment with some serious challenges at just about all levels. What do you see for South Africa, the South African economy, politics, not only politics, but the economy? What? Of course, as a businessman, you must have a view. What is that?
I'll first answer that in a sense, and I said it at an asset managers conference once. I said, you can go to Switzerland, everything works, and there's no opportunities. We're going to South Africa, nothing works, but there's plenty of opportunities. So choose where you want to go. If you look what we've built in Capitec, I think the average GDP growth in the 25 years was probably 1%. I haven't worked it out, but it's probably 1.5%. And if you went through all the economic, it wasn't a time to actually say, the economy is good, let's build something. We saw it and say, here's the client, and here's the opportunity. The other banks are not transparent, they're not simplified, and we believed in what we're doing. And you need to be bold in that. Interesting is that in 2020 with COVID, March happened. You don't know what's happening. I remember I said to our team, July, now we cut the budget and we cut deep. We're not going to retrench everyone, but I want once I don't want to come back. And we cut the OPEX a hell of a lot. And then August, September, we were sitting, and now we're on Teams, you were from home. And then, I don't know, I had a brainwave, and I said, you know what we're going to do now? Now we're going to grow. Because my mind just said that if you look at what all the other companies is, they are downscaling and they're trying to survive. Yeah. But the moment we change our whole mindset to grow and grow digital, you change the mood of everyone and you look for opportunities. And it's interesting, in that 2 years, I asked the board about 6.8 billion and there was no debate about it. But we went then very strong digital and financial services. So I think, Dawie, if I look at, if you look at the economy, you can sit for hours and look at the bloody economy and be negative. But look for opportunities and have a positive mindset. And if you have a positive mindset, you will find opportunities. We found it in COVID. But if I look at we went through the Zuma years, which was, I think, a disgrace what happened to the country. And then you had COVID. And we slowly but surely turning. If our government just want to execute on strategies, then it'll be much better. So I'm positive. It's not easy, but I think there's still plenty of opportunities. Mm-hmm. But we're going to sit. If we're going to have a 2% GDP for the next 10 years, it's actually going to be excellent. But I think more focus on the client and opportunities for the client. Mm-hmm. I think there's plenty.
Yeah. So despite the negative, headlines and the headline figures, there's always opportunity for the one that.
So anytime we really looked at the economy was on the credit committee, and because we were very strong in unsecured lending, you always had to look at what is happening in that particular space and what's happening in the economy, what's happening in the mining side, what is happening in this particular area. So but the rest, we were actually saying, look at the client and look and search for.
So, what are you currently seeing in the economy?
Well, it's interesting, before Trump and Iran started, I think we were all in a very positive space. We were all, it was the best year or best start to a year ever. Yeah. Rand dollar was low, the interest rates were starting to come down. Everything was starting to look positive. But I wouldn't change my decision making of what's happening with Trump and Iran, because I think it's going to be short term. It's going to be in the next 3-4 months it will play down. So it's silly to say I'm not going to do something. You need to be rather early and go quicker than wait, because I see this as temporary. I think it's overall our country's in a much better space than what it was, let's say 5-6 years ago. Yeah. It's definitely not right, but it's at least there's green shoots coming through, and it's how do you use that?
It's amazing across the board through all the business leaders that we've had discussions with. The key kind of golden thread that ties everyone together is the positive mindset and the conscious decision to focus on the positive and not to just.
You can't do business if you're not positive. Because you're negative, you see all the flippant things that's going to go wrong. And think about it. But if you're positive, you look for solutions. So you need to have a very positive mindset. And stay away from
Economist.
It's an interesting debate, Dawie, because I get so frustrated when I listen to news and I look at the share price today has gone up with 1%. It's gone. What the hell is that?
It doesn't mean anything.
It doesn't mean anything, and they report on it as if this is the most important. I'm more interested in the share price over a period because that is the important part. But if the share price goes up with 1% or 2% today, it's got. Everything is changing, but you need to have that long-term view. I think, which is critical.
Awesome, but thank you so much, Gerrie, for joining us today. We really, really, really appreciate it, and we appreciate the insights.
We must just ask this question before he goes.
Oh, we're not closing yet.
So what now?
What now?
For you, what now? So you've done all of this, and you've taken a bit of a garden leave, I understand. You're getting involved in agriculture or game conservation. So what now for you?
It's Dawie, if I look at, in the past, my whole passion was entrepreneur. and that is still a big passion. So I'm involved in small businesses. I'm involved in Capitec back again, but I've grown or I've changed. I've got 3 objectives now. The one is entrepreneur. The other one is conservation. So I'm spending a lot of time. We've got a big farm, just other side Mossel Bay, and giving back and rewilding things gives me a kick. And then education, and that's why I'm on the Stadio board, because there's for me 2 things. If you want to fix South Africa, it's looking after entrepreneurs, and the second one is our education system is shocking. You need to fix education, and unfortunately we've started you at the top, but the grassroots here we're not producing people for the new economy.
No,
we're not.
That's true.
And our whole system needs to change, and we in the private sector and where we talk, it's the one area that we must highlight, because everyone talks about Eskom and a Transnet, but nobody worries about education.
Exactly.
Education is, if you want to be 20, 30 years from now successful, is education.
Absolutely.
Completely agree. Gerrie Fourie, thank you so much for your time. Almost switched to Afrikaans there, but we're going to speak Afrikaans now. Thank you very much for your time. Everyone for listening, thank you very much for your time. I hope you enjoyed it.